Hello, hello. Can you believe we are in week 20, week 20 of building our business this year? And this week, I have to say, is a topic that we really need to learn how to handle because it does come up quite often. And that's what to do when God says pivot. Yes, because sometimes He does. Our scripture is from the book of Proverbs, the 16th chapter and the ninth verse. And in the NIV translation, it reads, "In their hearts, humans plan their course, but the Lord directs their steps." You planned this carefully, prayerfully. You did not rush into it. You've been sitting with it. You tested it against scripture. You have talked it through with people you trust, and you built a real plan around it. You committed to it publicly. You announced to this group even that you were starting to move. And now something is shifting. It might be subtle. It might be a quiet unease that has been building for weeks, a persistent sense that the direction you set is no longer the direction you're being led. Or it might be less subtle. It might be a door that slams shut. You might face a market reality that changed your equation, or you had a moment of clarity in prayer that reoriented everything you thought you knew about what you were building. And the question sitting in your chest is one that every honest kingdom builder eventually faces. Is this God saying pivot, or is this just me looking for a way out? And that's not a small question, and it deserves a very serious answer. Now, in our scripture, Proverbs 16 and 9, it holds two truths that are real. These are two true things, but they are sometimes in tension with each other. Now, the first truth is this: humans plan, and planning is not faithlessness. It is not evidence of insufficient trust in God. It is part of his design. It's the same design that gave us the dominion mandate in the first place. We're called to steward. We were given the instruction to write the plan and make it plain, right? We are meant to plan. We are meant to be intentional and strategic and deliberate about the direction of our lives and our enterprises. That is true. It is also true that the Lord directs our steps, not the plan, our steps, which means that faithfulness to the plan is not the same as faithfulness to God. The plan is our best understanding at a given moment. The direction or instruction comes from somewhere far larger than our understanding. So when those two things diverge, the plan and our steps, when the steps you are being directed toward do not match the plan that you set, the question is not whether to follow the direction, it is whether you can tell the difference between direction and distraction. And that discernment is what we're working through this week. Now, how do we tell the difference? In my experience with working with founders and leaders and entrepreneurs, helping them to navigate a pivot, both the kind that led to breakthroughs and kind that have led to regret. There are patterns that distinguish a genuine pivot, which is a course correction, from other things that present themselves in the same clothing, like a wolf. So a genuine pivot tends to redirect, not escape. A God directed pivot moves you towards something. It's a clearer assignment. It's a better served audience. It's a more aligned model. The energy behind it is forward facing. You're running to something. You're not running from the difficulty of what you were working on. You are being called towards something more specific, more true, and more sustainable. So the pivot has a destination, not just an exit from something that is harder or not as exciting as it once was. Distraction tends to retreat. It presents itself in the language of wisdom and discernment, but its energy is actually backward facing. It is the relief of putting down something that got harder than expected. And it's the appeal of a fresh start over the discomfort of pushing through a commitment. It is a new idea that arrived exactly the moment that the current thing you were working on has become heavy. And that timing is not always coincidence because you know that there are no coincidences. So a genuine pivot tends to come with clarity and not just restlessness. The direction, the instruction is specific enough for you to act on. You can describe what you're moving toward in concrete terms. The new direction has at least as much definition as the one you're leaving. And often it has more definition. It is a clearer thing about the pivot is that what you're leaving rather is less clear than where you are going, and that's worth examining. Distraction, on the other hand, tends to arrive as an idea without a plan. It is more exciting than the current work because it has not yet been tested against reality. The current work has been, and the comparison is inherently unfair. You tend to measure the polished potential of a new idea against the proven difficulty of something that you are currently is a work in progress. And that's not an apples to apples comparison. Potential always looks bright and shiny, and a work in progress is just that, it's work. So finally, what I want you to hear is that genuine pivots also survive counsel. Now, when you bring your new instruction or your new direction to people who know your assignment well, it could be a mentor, it could be a trusted advisor, it could be an accountability partner here in this group, someone who will tell you the truth. If the new direction holds up under scrutiny, then you know that you are going in the right direction. It may be refined in conversations with your trusted counsel, but it's not dismantled by the questioning of counsel. Distractions, however, tend not to survive the same level of scrutiny. And uh, when it's a distraction, it weakens when you put a bright light on it that your trusted advisors will do. And so your trusted advisors aren't caught up in the emotion of a new thing. So they are going to ask you hard questions. And when something is a distraction, it usually can't stand up to the harder questions. So, starting something new is always exciting. So, that can be a distraction from avoiding the work of your current project. Now, I do want to be really direct with you. You know how I am, and so and I think it's important, especially because I'm very protective of this community, and I don't want anyone to get derailed, right? And a lot of times, kingdom leaders will get misdirected, and we want to avoid that. A pivot excuse me, a pivot is not an escape from difficulty. And in week 20, what you're building may feel difficult. Every genuine assignment gets hard, not because the assignment is wrong, but because the hard part is part of the build. The resistance that you might be feeling in month 4 or month 8 or when you get to month 14, that's not evidence that you have missed direction. It is often evidence that you are exactly where the assignment requires you to be, in the part that requires perseverance and faith and the willingness to keep moving when the outcomes are not yet visible. So I have watched founders walk away from the exact assignment God gave them because it got hard at the wrong time. Just before the breakthrough, just before the big client said yes, just before the system that they were implementing clicked into place, they called a pivot and they found scripture to support it and they felt peace about it. They're going in this new thing was going to be the better thing. And I promise you, it's not a year later when they are calling me that they were in the middle of building the new thing that also started to get hard. And now they're wondering, should they pivot again? And I don't want that to be you. Okay. So the pattern is not the assignment, the pattern is the relationship with difficulty. And no pivot resolves difficulty. Our scripture does not say that the Lord will direct your steps around hard parts. It says that He will direct your steps. He'll direct your steps through the hard parts. He'll direct your steps past hard parts. And sometimes He will march you right into a hard part because the hard part is where the growth is. And the growth is part of where you were supposed to be. So, having said all that, I also want to be equally clear about the other side because sometimes God really does say pivot. Sometimes what looked like the right direction was just preparation for the real direction. Sometimes the first version of the business was training ground for the actual assignment. And sometimes the market or the business model or the audience or customer base needs to change. And the founder who refuses to move because you have locked into this plan and you've made this public commitment, so you don't want to appear of not being committed, what you're actually demonstrating is stubbornness, not faithfulness. So discernment is not about locking into the first plan and defending it to the death, regardless of what God is doing. It is about remaining responsive to the Lord who directs our steps while staying honest about whether What feels like direction is actually direction or just the desire for relief of stress. So when the pivot is real, move. When he says move, move deliberately with a plan. Again, having honored the commitments made under the previous instruction, not with an announcement to the world that burns up what you were working on, but with the kind of intentional transition that preserves your integrity and your relationships and the credibility that you have built. So the way you pivot also tells the market and your community as much about your character as the work that you built under the first instruction. So you want to pivot with that same level of integrity that you built in the first place. Now, we are moving quickly through the year, and as we go into week 21, I'm going to start introducing a framework that I have used and I have used to counsel others to navigate exactly this type of discernment. It's called the Dominion Framework. And it's not a formula, don't get me wrong, but it is a structured approach to building kingdom enterprises that are spiritually aligned, legally sound, and strategically positioned to go the distance. So, if what we're talking about in today's video really resonates with you, I think what's going to be coming in the next few weeks will really be useful. So, stay with me. Now, we've talked about the two truths. We are meant to plan, and the Lord also directs our steps. So, in our reflection this week, we want to really give it some deep consideration. So, this week, I want you to ask yourself, is the shift that I am sensing a genuine divine redirection? Or am I looking for relief from something that just got too hard? And we have a test that I want you to apply, and it's just three simple questions. Ask yourself, does the pivot redirect towards something specific, or is it redirecting you primarily away from something that's hard? Number three, does the new direction give clarity and definition that you can act on? Or is it more of an exciting new concept that you're going to need to now dig into? And has this new direction survived a hard conversation? Or have you been avoiding the counsel of someone who you know will tell you the truth? When you answer each of those three questions honestly, you'll know how to make the decision. And then on our second reflection, I want you to ask if the pivot is real, and again, sometimes pivots are real. What does an integrity honoring transition look like? Before you announce anything to the public, ask yourself what commitments are currently outstanding under your current direction. So, a pivot that navigates with integrity is actually your testimony. And the one that leaves people in the lurch turns out to be a liability. All right. So, plans are yours to make, and steps are the Lord's to direct. The wisdom is in knowing the difference and moving when He moves, not just when you are ready for something new. Now, are you in a pivot season right now? Maybe you are. or maybe you're wondering if you should be. That's fine. Uh, Now is the time to really give it some contemplation. Now, of course, I'm here. You can drop it in the comments. Let me know what season you're in. Are you in a pivot season? I'm happy to help you walk through that discernment if you would like. I'm happy to do it. But make sure you spend some time thinking through when you are sensing it's time to jump into something new. All right. Now, with my legal hat on as your executive counsel, and we like to share legal tips each week. And this week I have two tips for you, and they are serious, as you know I always am. Tip number one: a business pivot has legal implications that most founders do not think through before they announce this brand new direction. So before you change your business model or any of your service offerings, or change your target market, or even and especially before you change your brand, there are two categories of existing obligations that I want you to review. The first one is I want you to review your current client contracts. I want you to take a look at the scope limitations. Do you have any exclusivity clauses? And do you have any non-compete provisions that could possibly restrict this new direction that you want to go into, or require you to complete some existing obligations before you make the transition? So you want to look at your current contracts. The second thing I want you to review is I want you to look at all of your vendor contracts, your partnership contracts, or your affiliate agreements that you may have made. And I want you to look at the termination clauses, look at the notice requirements that you might have, and look at any obligations that survive after the agreement terminates. There are sometimes some things you still have to keep doing, although you've said that the contract is over. So there is a legal cost when you execute a pivot poorly. It will cost you more to uh, have to, make amends for things that were left undone because you ran into this new direction. So I want you to know what your responsibilities are before you announce this brand new direction that you're going in. Okay. And tip number two, and this is really, really important. If your pivot involves a name change or a new branding, the legal update sequence, how you update things legally, the order that you do it matters greatly. And a lot of times founders get it backwards. There are basically 5 steps that I want you to follow. Step number one: before you make any branding changes, excuse me, I want you to confirm that the new name is available in your state's business registry, as well as in our federal trademark office database. I want you to check those two places first. And then, if it is available, then the second thing to do is to secure the domain names and any social media handles that you're going to use for the new name. Go secure those right away. And then the next thing to do, the third step, is to file an updated DBA or business entity registry, because now you're going to update your business entity. And so we want to do that after you've secured the names, right? And then once that is done, next, the fourth step is to update your contracts, your letterhead, your invoices, any of your client facing materials. Now you want to update everything completely. Now, those four steps you absolutely must do and do them in that order. And then after all of those are done, then you can update your marketing. You can announce it to the world because launching a rebrand publicly before you have done steps 1 through 4 means that you might be marketing with a new branding that you don't have the rights to use. Or worse, you run down the street building up some branding equity only to find out later that your registration has been denied. So do steps 1 through 4 before you do any public facing marketing. Update the legal infrastructure before you update your audience. All right? Do those things in that order and you will be able to soar. Now, okay, so next week, week 21, we are going to really start building out this infrastructure for our businesses because we want to make sure we have the capacity to receive. So, why the infrastructure matters is because the infrastructure you build determines how much blessing you can actually hold and what it means to prepare your business to receive what you are believing for before it arrives. We do this because we anticipate dominion. So we build for what we're expecting. So we'll talk about that next week. You have a lot of things to think about this week. Is God saying to pivot, or is what you're working on starting to feel weighty? Make sure you can discern the two, and I'll see you next week.